All right, here's my Privateer141. I think this is my third week of having it, or third week of riding it. Everything is pretty much stock. I tuned the suspension, took out all the volume spacers. The rear actually has some stroke spacer, the shock stroke. There was 3 of them in there. I took 2 out, so just the 1 left in there. I changed tires. Actually, let's go back to the suspension. Right now I have the rear at 140 psi and the front at, I think, 49 psi. I'm lightweight. I'm fully geared up. With riding shoes and helmet on and everything. I think I'm about 140 pounds, but naked I'm like 135. Tires, I put on Maxxis Recon 2.6 front and rear. Lighter than the factory, the original tires. The original tires were 2.4 Magic Marys, Schwabi, however you pronounce it, German company. And the rear was the 2.35, I believe, Hanskamp, however you pronounce that. But anyways, those tires are beefier, heavier than these ones are. I tried this on my Izzo for the front. I really liked it. Made it a slightly plusher ride, but it was lighter, and it's actually pretty grippy too. So especially for trail riding, and I'm not doing any I'm not doing any bike parking, nothing like that. Let's see what else did I do to this thing. Obviously, I got the Crank Brother egg beaters, and I just put this on today. Right here, I got the Fast Flex handlebars, and obviously the Industry 9 stem to fit the Fast Flex handlebar, because the Fast Flex is 31.8, which is the original, the stock 35 with the race face handlebars. The main thing that I like with this is that it has a 12 degree sweep, whereas most handlebars, mountain bike handlebars, it only has an 8 degree sweep, and that's not enough. Actually, let's hop on it. So I've been riding now for 5 months now, I guess. I started riding again back in end of March or beginning of April. When I got my Izzo, I hadn't ridden for like years, literally years. The last time I was serious with mountain biking was in the late 2000s. That was the last time. Actually, the last time I was really serious about mountain biking, I still had a car, and that was 2008. Was the last year that I had a car. Then I sold it. I sold my car, and I was carless for 3 years. During that time, I didn't really mountain bike anymore, because you need a car to transport the bike to the trailhead. So I didn't really mountain bike anymore. I did every once in a while, but not regularly enough to keep my conditioning, keep my fitness and my skills up. So it was all downhill after that. So 3 years carless. The first year carless, I just had a motorcycle only. I actually got rid of my scooter. Back then I was still riding 50cc scooters. I had a couple of Honda Ruckuses that I went through, and also a couple of Honda Metropolitans. So I was carless for 1 year, 3 years. The first year I had a motorcycle only. Then I wanted to, I purposely intended to be carless. And I told myself I wanted to do that for at least a year. Just see if I could do it, basically. And it was cool, it was fun. And man, I rode a lot that year. That year I think I probably put at least 20,000 miles on that bike, on that motorcycle. So that was from commuting and from day rides and little trips, trips around the state, and sometimes out of state too. But anyway, so after a year of doing that, I was like, man, motorcycle is just too impractical. Especially the motorcycle I had, it was a standard. It was a CB600F. In the US, it was known as the 599. In Europe, and actually in Europe and the rest of the world, was known as the Honda Hornet 600. I bought that bike brand new in 2006, and I sold that bike in I think it was 2012. Yeah, I had it for 6 years. Put 50,000 miles on it. But anyways, after the first year of being carless and with the bike only, I was like, man, it's just too impractical. So I bought a scooter, another scooter again, which was my second Honda Metropolitan. Then so the next 2 years, I had my motorcycle and my Honda Metropolitan 50cc. And after the 3 years of that, I was like, okay, I need to give myself a car again. So got a car again, and I go like, oh, got a car again. I figured I started mountain biking again, and I never really did. By then, I was so deep into riding motorcycles and scooters that all my trips and whatever free time I had, I rode motorcycles and scooters. So it's been like that on and off. So really, I haven't seriously ridden in about 15 years. So when I got back up into riding again, back in the beginning of April, oh boy, that first month, that was exhausting. My heart felt like I was gonna have a heart attack. I was so out of shape, out of riding shape, not just riding shape, but just fitness in general. The last 5 years, I've been so lazy to do anything physical. So yeah, that first month was real tough. Second month got a little better. And after the third month, I felt okay. I was like, oh, I'm feeling pretty good. And I got the YT Izzo Core 2, which is the base model. Got that because it was like the cheapest thing around, and basically it was what they had in stock, sort of. I mean, I still had to wait. When I ordered it, I think it was the end of February or so. I didn't get it until end of March, so it took like a month or so for me to get it. But supply chain issues. So that was really the only thing that was available, but also it was cheap, or relatively speaking, compared to anything else. Everything else was like, for the same component group, everything else was like $1,000 more. So I was like, oh, forget that. I'm not sure I was gonna get serious back into mountain biking. I mean, when I did it seriously, I loved it. It was like oh, that's not all I did back then, back in my college days, back in the in the 90s and early 2000s. So I did. My whole lifestyle was centered around mountain biking. I took vacations, mountain biking, day trip, whatever. It was all based around mountain biking. So I know I would like it, but I was like, oh, did I really want to? Considering that I'm older, I'm mid-age now, and I'm like, oh, am I gonna be able to physically do it anymore? So 15 years passed, but actually even before that, let's take a step backwards, even further than that. I've always been into cycling, even when I was a little kid. But in high school, I got into mountain biking. This was the early 2000s, early 90s. Got into mountain biking, and back then, mountain bikes were still based on road bikes. So, long stem, really low handlebars, narrow, seat up really high. Man, those things were death traps, man. But I stuck to it. Get out of high school, was working after, a few years out of high school and working. I was able to save up some money and got what I was able to afford, what I considered at the time a serious mountain bike. Back then, and I got a Cannondale SV. I think it was like SV 400, if I remember right. My first full suspension, my first serious bike. but it was the base model. You know, it was out the door. It was like just over $1,000, and the components just sucked. I mean, the wheels sucked. Everything just sucked. After, I don't know, like the first month or so of riding, things were like falling apart literally because there was just junky ass components. So saved up my money, you know, started putting together, you know, much nicer parts, putting together LX, XT, even some XTR. Actually, no, at the time I didn't have XTR. I think XT. Then after that, I rode that thing for like 3 years or so. Then around 2000, I can't remember exactly when it was. Was it 2000 or 2001? I decided to upgrade my bike, and I got an Intense Tracer. Back then, Intense was still using the horse link, so they licensed it from Specialized. And the Tracer was, oh man, that was a sweet freaking bike. 100 millimeters of travel, air shock in the back. It was, whew, yeah, it was a sweet bike. Rode really well. It was such a good handling bike. It did everything really well, surprisingly. I mean, because back then I was really serious and I rode a lot, so my skill was, compared to now, my skill level was high back then. I wouldn't say high compared to like actual high level skill riders, but high relative for me. Whew. So, and I built that thing up as best as I could. I had Chris King hubs, DT Swiss wheels, XTR, basically full XTR except for crank and bottom bar because I was using race pace. So I like race pace cranks. Thompson stem and seat post. Italian a flight saddle with tie seat rails. I had a custom handlebar from 7 Cycles out of Massachusetts or Boston or somewhere in that area, back east. And I had that thing, I can't remember, it was 26 or 28 inches wide. I think it was 26. And I had a custom sweep, fat bar to 12-degree sweep. And that's what this bar is, this fast bar right here. 12-degree sweep. It feels so much better. And these, the current mountain bike bars, majority of them are 8 degrees. It's just not enough. My wrist kills me. And I have carpal tunnel on both hands, both wrists. And when it acts up, man, it's really bad. But so I had that thing for like about 3 years as well, the Intense. Then back then, around that time, 9-speed had just came out. So 9-speed was the greatest, the newest thing, latest and greatest. But and I was riding so much back then too. I was riding easily 3 times a week, if not 5 times a week. Wow. But so I got tired of like cleaning the freaking chain so much because I just got tired of it. So I went back to 8-speed because 9-speed was, the spacing is more closer and everything was more sensitive, right? More sensitive to once it gets dirty, it didn't shift very well anymore. So I went back to 8-speed for a little bit. So I was in pretty good, decent shape back then too. So I was like, man, still, and I was a weight weenie too, sort of, not fully weight weenie. But I tried to be as much as weight weenie as I could because I could get away with it. Back then I was only, I was about 130 pounds I think when I graduated high school, I was only 120 pounds. But sometime in college, I got up to like 125, maybe 130. By the time I was 30 years old, I think I was 130. And now I'm 135. So I stayed pretty skinny the whole time. So anyway, so 8-speed. And even then I was like, I didn't like it. Too much stuff going on. So I decided to go 1x8. So one ring in the front. So I was one of the first people that actually did that. Now it's common. Right now the norm is one ring up front, usually a 32 tooth, and and a 12-speed in the back, right? But back then, that was like unheard of, and I ran that for a little bit. But back then, oh shit, should have concentrated instead of talk. But back then, the teeth on the cassette wasn't that big, right? It was only especially an 8-speed cassette. It was only I think it was only 30 or 32 tooth, the biggest one. So it's basically, it was geared too tall for me. So I tried I think I tried a smaller tooth in front. I went to like a 31 tooth up front instead of the common 32. 32 is a middle-sized chain ring in a 3x. But it was still too, it wasn't tall enough. So what I did was I put my 9-speed back on, and back then 9-speed went up to 34 tooth. So I did that for a while, but still, you still have the problem with 9-speed, because it would get dirty and it didn't shift so well. Even though it was STR. So I did that for a little bit. I'm like, there got to be something better. And around that same time, roll-off. Roll-off 14 internal gear hub. Hello. Thank you. So roll-off came out with a 14-speed hub. I was like, oh, look at that. And around that time, I was working at a bike shop. So I ordered one. Actually, I didn't even order it through my bike shop. We carried the brand, but the bike shop I was working at, they never really gave any really good discounts. Back then, the internet was still pretty new. E-commerce was still pretty new. And I was actually able to find, with the exchange rate favoring the US dollar, I was able to find a roll-off speed hub in Australia. So I bought it from Australia online. That was an expensive purchase, but it was still cheaper than me getting it in the US with my local bike shop discount, employee discount. So anyways, so I got that, and I put that on my tracer. So I was like the first person to have a roll-off speed hub on a full suspension bike. And you actually see this as you go to MTBR. Actually, I'm not sure it's still there, but it was there for a while. Go to MTBR, look up the roll-off speed hub. Same username. I still was using the same username back then, DaVinci. We need to concentrate a little bit. Oh, God damn it. Oh, shit. Oh. So still using the same username, DaVinci. So you actually see me put a review on it. I mentioned I had on a tracer, and again the tracer was a full suspension bike. No one did that, and back then roll-off didn't even have anything for a full suspension bike. They only made it for tandems and hardtails. So I machined out a little bracket that I was able to mount onto the this brake mount on the rear to hold the man, why do people always leave this thing open? This thing's supposed to stay closed. They graze cattle out here. Cattle could escape, and that's a real pain in the ass. Always assholes leaving gate open. Yes, it only takes like a few seconds to, open and close the gate. Just do it, Jesus. Anyways, so roll-off didn't have anything meant for full suspension, so I machined out a bracket to adapt the bracket that mounted where the disc brake was, and I ran that for a while, and I really liked it. It was cool. I think I ran it for like maybe 1,000 miles. It was cool, but man, the thing is so heavy, and it affected the suspension. The suspension didn't work like it could. No, it wasn't. The rear end wasn't as lively, as active. So after about 1,000 miles, I took it off. I ended up selling that too. I'm not sure who bought it, and I think I sold it on MTBR as well. But anyways, then after that, I was like, okay, for now, let me go back to the 8-speed or 9-speed. And also around the early 2000s, single speed started to catch on, and I'm kind of, oh fuck, I should have focused instead of talk. I'm kind of, at least back then, I was like I was like one of those guys that had to have the latest and greatest. And before single speed became a trend, it was just the beginning of it. I got one. Got a single speed. Let me try it out. And see how it does. And I really liked it. Really enjoyed it. I experimented with the different setup, crank length. Back then we were like, oh yeah, go 180 crank to give you more leverage since you're on a single speed. And I did that for a while, but the ergonomics didn't fit me. It was too oh man, I need to focus instead of talk. The ergonomics didn't fit me, so I played around with crank lengths from 180, 175. Oh, rider coming down. Let me move out of the way. Yep. Whew. For 180, 175, 170, 165, and I found that 170 fit me best, ergonomically speaking. I have a, god damn it, I have a 30-inch inseam, leg length. Back when I had my helmet leather suit custom fitted to me, helmet said my thigh length was longer than normal than other average people with the same leg length. It's the same 30-inch inseam. He said my thigh length was a little bit longer, but my thigh leg or my thigh bone leg, hit my crank right there. So he said, yeah, my thigh bone was longer than others. So anyways, that probably has something to do with me liking a 70 millimeter crank versus anything else. So that's how I figured that out, that crank length. And I'm still using that right now. Right now I have a 170, or that's actually this bike came with 170. But yeah, so I tried the single speed out. I really liked it. I was like, oh man, this is for me. Oh, god damn it. It was so simple. Hardly any maintenance. It was mostly riding, hardly any maintenance, so I dug that. by then I actually kind of got sick of being playing that game, playing the game of the latest and greatest. That was just, man, I just couldn't afford it. I was doing college at the time. I was actually at the end of my college career. My college career, because I was in college for like 8 years. That's how it is when you have to work your way through college. I was working 30 to 36 hours a week and going to school for 12 units. Not I wouldn't, full time is considered. At least the school I went to, 12 units was the start of full time. And you could take as many. Oh shit! Whew. You take as many as 18 units, but that's way too much with my workload. God damn it! So this climb I'm doing right now, that you see me coming off the bike a whole bunch of times. When I was a month or so ago, before I got this bike, I was still riding the Izzo. I was able to do that climb. When I felt good, on the days I felt good, I was able to do that climb without getting off at all, just barely. I have yet to do that with this bike, because this bike is basically 3 pounds heavier. This bike, as is, with a full water bottle, is like and with this heavy handlebar here, it's like 34.5 pounds, I think, approximately. Whereas my Izzo from the factory was about 31 pounds. Or just over 31 pounds with the full water bottle and the pedals. Probably 31.5 maybe. So a difference of 3 pounds, and boy, it makes a difference. I could feel it. But also the Izzo, it's only 130 millimeters front and rear, so it's more efficient. It's definitely a more efficient climber. The Izzo could climb just as well as you could descend on it, so it was equal. Climbing and descending is equal on it. This bike, climbing isn't as good as descending. Descending is definitely, god damn it, bad line choice. Descending is, descending on this bike is definitely easier than climbing, even with this lighter weight Recon, Maxxis Recon 2.6 and balloon tires, or the start of balloon tires. It's not quite balloon yet, but big fatty tires like this gives you a smoother ride, but also gives you more grip as well. So back to, god damn it, oh shit, oh fuck. See, that right there is a loss of concentration, and that was so easy too, but I still lost concentration. Talking too much. Oh man, that's like first time I've ever fallen. Oh, no, I take that back. First time I fall on this bike. I did fall on my Izzo once. Same type of fall, but around the switchback, actually going down the switchback, surprisingly. Oh fuck. Yeah. Talk less and ride more. Okay, it's a little easier right here. Okay, camera just turned off for some reason. Gave me a 30-second break right there. But where was I? Oh yeah, so this bike doesn't climb as well as the Izzo does, but it descends better. So anyway, so back to the story of my history, mountain biking history. So yeah, so I tried single speed, and I really liked it. So I started doing that, and back then there was like some machismo shit going on, and people were like going, "Oh yeah, we use a 2-to-1 ratio." I'm like, what the fuck? 2-to-1? That's way too much for climbing, easy climbs and flats. And if you're in shape, that's fine. But I couldn't do this trail right here with 2 to 1. So I tried it. I did try 2 to 1, didn't work out. It's gear too tall. Then I tried that was 2 to 1. I was using 3216. Then I tried a 3218. Oh, that was better, but it was still too tall though. Then I did 19, 20, and ultimately I think I settled with a 21. I think I did I used a very low gear. I ended up using like I think a 31 front and a 21 in the rear. So it was like a 1.6 to 1, I think, something like that. So that was good, and I was able to climb even steep stuff with that gear. But obviously downhill, you just have to spin out. Hell, even in the flats I spun out. But I didn't care about that. I was like, all you need to do is just accelerate real quick and let the momentum, carry me, and it was fine. And and when you go single speed, and actually, when I went single speed, I first tried it on my Tracer, but Tracer, being a horse link, and horse link are, they tend to be kind of active, or more active. So it just took up too much energy, and I couldn't do it. So that's when I actually got a dedicated single speed. And I really liked it. I rode that single speed for about a year or two. So now we're into like the 2003, 2004 time frame now. And ever since I was in high school, I always wanted to make my own frame, but I just couldn't. I wanted a custom frame. I just couldn't afford it. Still in college and everything. So I went to bike school, UBI. I went a few times actually. I went and did the chromoly frame building class, and I also took the titanium class back then. And by then, before I even signed up for class, I wanted to make sure that I was okay with single speed and have my geometry down and everything, because I didn't want to spend that kind of money and it didn't come out good, right? It didn't come out the way I liked it. Being a lightweight rider, most frames were too stiff for me. So when I built that bike, it was my first bike I built, single speed, chromoly. I used road bike tube set. I didn't even use mountain bike tube set, again because I'm so light. And hello. Hey there. Hey there. So because I'm so light, and that frame was awesome. I built up other frames, like I said, I did a titanium one, and I built other frames for myself after that, just to experiment with geometry and all that stuff. And I always went back to that original frame because I put so much thought into that, and experimented with other stuff. It didn't really work out. So anyways, so that's when I started to become a custom frame builder. Did that for a few years. So anyways, so that was my single speed. And around the time that I got into single speed, I also got back into scooters, because I think my freshman year in college, I got an Elite 80 scooter to give me to school, because parking at my school I was at was like impossible. So it's driving to school was a waste of time. So I was like, let me get a scooter. So I did that for like a year. But at the time, the Elite 80, if you know the Elite 80, it's not necessarily a practical scooter because it has no storage or anything unless you put a milk crate on it. So I only had that for like a year or so. I rode it for a year or so, and I just parked it. Ended up selling it to a friend of mine. So skip forward back to single speed. So around the time I got back into single speed, I also got back into scooters. And my first scooter after the Elite 80, back in like the mid 90s. So by this time it's like 2004, I think. Back into got a scooter again. I got a Honda Ruckus. In 2003, was it 2003 or 2001? I forget. Honda Ruckus. Had that for a few years. Then I ended up getting a second one. Sold the first one, got a second one. Had that for a few years, and so on and so forth. So now we're back more closer to the present. So again, like a 15-year hiatus from being a serious mountain biking, at least the mountain bike lifestyle. And I traveled everywhere, all over the state. Went to Moab, went to, all over. Most of that travel that I did was on the Intense Racer. Man, that thing was so good. I was actually able to go to North Star and Bear, was a Big Bear down in LA, and do back then what they consider a bike park. It wasn't much of a bike park, but I was able to do it ride all those trails on that bike. The only trail I wasn't able to ride at the time was the trail in North Star called Privateer141. So that's named after a bike company. Privateer141. They specialized in downhill bikes back then. I'm not sure if they still exist. But that was the only trail I wasn't able to do because it was just too rocky. And I had basically a cross-country / trail bike, 26-inch wheels, so that was tough. So I couldn't do that. But everything else I was able to do. Not very fast, but I could still do it. So that kind of tells you the gauge of my skill back then. Now, man, no way. I'm not even close to being as skilled I was back then. Whew. So I was like I was shopping. I was actually wanted to go back to mountain biking for like the last year, or maybe the last 2 or 3 years actually. But I never came around to it. Just lazy and other things going on and such. So I think around last Thanksgiving or so, Christmas time, I started to get more serious about it. I started to do research, do bikes again. I knew that I couldn't ride single speed anymore. I'm too damn old. So I was like, oh, should I ride a full suspension or a hardtail? I'm like, I might as well go with a full suspension. Might as well. I'm gonna go full 12 speed. Might as well go, have the latest and greatest in technology. Because the last time I did any technology stuff, it was 20 years ago when I had my Tracer. So, boy, and I gotta say, bike technology has gone leaps and bounds beyond what it was 20 years ago. It's insane. But now, like this trail that I'm doing, going down this trail back then it was hard. Short travel. But now with 29-inch wheels, makes rolling over things easy, and more travel. And not just more travel, but efficient pedaling travel too. Because back then there weren't that many efficient pedaling bikes. So I shopped around and I discovered YT. I was comparing the prices and stuff and what you get. And you can't beat YT. Like I said, same. You have another bike company, same group and everything. It was like $1,000 more. So I got the YT Izzo Core 2, cheapest one. It was still cost me $4,000. That's a lot of freaking money for a goddamn mountain bike. But I didn't want to spend too much, but at the same time, I didn't necessarily want a shit bike because I know that shit bikes doesn't give you a good user experience. So I got that, and I was really surprised at how well that thing rode. It's like, oh my god. And that was the first time I used 29-inch wheels too. So I was like, oh my god. What a big difference. So I rode that for 3 months, 4 months. So this is my 5th month, right? So I started riding April, May, June, July. Yeah, so 4 months with the YT. And August is, the Privateer. So after riding the YT and riding this trail that I just came up, I'm like, and I've always been a fan of technical rides, not just technical descents, but I actually like technical climbs too. So the YT was great for that. It climbed this trail just as well as it descended. But you know, I'm older and I can't be taking as much risk anymore. You know, you don't heal the same, right? You might not ever heal it anymore once you get to midlife. So I was like, oh, okay, I better go with a slightly beefier bike with a little bit more travel, just a little bit more forgiving on the downhill. So that's why I got the Privateer. And it's still, you know, both bikes are horse link suspension. I love the horse link. You know, the guy knew what he was doing when he designed it, you know, 30 plus years ago, right? Back in the, what was it? Was the late 80s? I think it was. Late 80s or early 90s. 30, you know, about 30 or so years ago. So yeah, so I got this bike and it works really well. Surprisingly, it climbs really well too. Not as well as the Izzo, but pretty close. It's a little bit on the heavy side, you know, 3 pounds heavier, and I could sort of feel it too. I can feel that weight. As far as suspension travel when I'm climbing, I don't feel too much, like as far as like if it drops my energy, it feels almost the same. The main difference I think is the weight, and I don't even use the like this one has a high speed and low speed compression. I don't even use that. Both of them are completely open, so I haven't messed with that yet. I know I will, but the only thing I messed with is preload, my air pressure, and the rebound. And I think the preload and air pressure and rebound is perfect right now. I just need to you know, mess with this, you know, but that's for another day. Same thing with the rear shock. You know, same thing. I have the compression completely open, so it's not on at all. So yeah, so that's how I ended up with this bike, and so far I really like it. It rides so nice. I'm really surprised by it. All right. Oh shit! I almost fell over again. Kind of tired right now. I just go downhill now, so I better shut the hell up. Otherwise, I could lose concentration and might crash. That felt weird. I think the handlebars, the handlebar threw me off right there. So yeah, the handlebars, just the change in the handlebar position, I'm a little bit thrown off because the balance is a little different now. Feels good, but again, I'm kind of need to get used to it again. Because the handlebar is in a different position. It's not that far a difference, but it's enough for me to enough of a difference for me to tell. It kind of throws my balance off from what I was riding the last 3 weeks. Okay. I would purposely go through a rockier section just to have the fun of that technical. So here's a little jump, and I usually don't do it because I really don't like doing jumps. Never been a fan of jumps. I'd rather go through a tight, technical, rocky rock garden than do a jump. So I had a choice of jumping over the rock garden or riding through it. I'd rather ride through it just because it's funner. At least funner for me, because I like that technicality of the chunky riding. Back when I had my tracer, I would fly through here. Man, I was going through here a lot faster than I am right now. Back when I was really good. But nowadays, not so much. I can't take the risk either. Can't afford to get hurt. And, and when you're midlife, you don't feel the same either. Not like when you were 20 years old. So the Izzo goes through there, not as good as this bike does. This bike goes through there much smoother, but this Izzo can still go through it okay, and it can definitely climb better than this bike can. So not a bad bike at all. I just dropped my seat post down about an inch. This is not really steep, it's technical and it's rocky, but it's not steep. So it doesn't justify lowering the seat that much. So I think I dropped it probably about an inch or so. Maybe 2 inches at the most. Actually, let me raise it up slightly. Okay, now I think it's about an inch or so, inch and a half maybe. So this trail here that I'm doing today, Specialized actually comes out here. They're every now and again, every once in a while I see them out here testing new bikes. They would test suspension and whatever on whatever bike they have, their prototypes, because how rocky it is. Not too many places around this area that's this rocky, this chunky. So that's why Specialized actually comes out here doing testing. But I haven't seen them in a while though. The last time I saw them was, when I was still riding seriously. But they do come out here. It's usually on a weekday though. They never come out here on the weekend. I remember, you guys remember the brain shock, that's the Fox shock brain that Fox and Specialized came out with like 20 years ago or so. I remember them being out here testing that shock on that, the FSR, whichever it was. I can't remember what it was now. I think back then when they first came out with the Epic, I think that was sort of what they called it, Epic or whatever the cross-country bike was with the brain shock. This is where they tested it at. One of the places anyways. I remember that. I was like, whoa. I remember I saw them. I was like, whoa, what the heck is that? A couple of Specialized riders, not factory riders, but employees. They were out here testing that shock. And when I saw that, I was like, what was that? Then like a year or so, like a year later, I saw it. They started talking about it, starting to sell it. And probably within 2 years of me seeing that, it was for sale on the market. So that was pretty cool. But I'm not a big fan of Specialized, even though I do love the horse link. But Specialized didn't come up with that. It was what was his name? Horst Lettner? Did I pronounce that right? He's American German. I think he was born in, maybe he came from Germany, maybe, I'm not sure. But anyways, he's the one that designed it. So I love the horse link. Lots of places you can jump here, but usually, like I said, I usually don't jump. I like to ride through it. Those water bars and stuff, I like to ride through it, and I just find it to be more fun, more exciting, more thrilling than jumping over the rocks. And also because my compression, especially my low speed compression is completely open. It's actually very hard to jump because usually when you jump, you want to preload the suspension a little bit, right? But when your low speed compression is completely open, you're not able to preload the suspension very well. It just sucks up your energy, and it takes away that pop. And the reason why you preload the suspension before you jump is so when you do jump, it gives you an extra boost. When the suspension rebounds, it pops back up and it gives you an extra pop. So because I have my rebound completely open, both high speed and low speed, I don't have that pop, so it actually just sucks it all up. So let me check my camera. Still running. Okay, still running. Earlier it turned off. I'm not sure why. But anyways, yeah. So this is my normal ride. I do this, including the warm up from my house to the bench where I started this ride. I do this, this figure 8 loop. I call it, me and my friends we used to ride here a lot. We used to call it the figure 8 loop. Hello. So yes, I do this figure 8. So I usually go up to the top first, where the top bench was that I just came down from. I do that first, then on my way back, I will do a short little loop that you guys actually saw me do on my video of the Izzo when I first got it. I think it was like 2 or 3 rides in. Then I did that video. I was completely out of shape back then. So I'm way better shape now than I was, 5 months ago. Still not as good of a shape as it was when I was younger, but age for you, right? Oh. So one thing I like about this bike is that it's very quiet. There's like no rattle. Even when the rocks hit the frame, it's not that loud. Aluminum frame compared to the Izzo. The carbon frame, man, when the rocks hit it, it's kind of loud. It's that loud hollow sound. This frame, when the rock hits it, sounds much more solid. So it's a quieter bike. Only bad thing about this frame that I can think of is the water bottle size. You kind of limit to. I think this water bottle I have on here is a. How big was it? The Izzo running that fidlock is I think a 28 ounce or 800 milliliters for the fidlock. Izzo, they call it the YT Izzo Fidlock 5000. That thing holds 800 milliliters, so less than a liter, obviously. But this water bottle that I have on here, it holds less than that. It holds like, I think instead of 800, I think it only holds like 700 or something like that. 650. So that's the bad thing about this frame, is that at least with a conventional water bottle, I can only fit this. This is the biggest water bottle I can fit. So personally, I like a 1 liter water bottle. That's my ideal. That's just enough. Just enough for me to get to the ride. Whereas with this water bottle I'm using, I will run out before I finish the ride. Yeah, so this time when I was out of shape, man, I almost didn't make it up. I actually made it up, but I almost didn't. So this bike has obviously a 32 tooth in the front, but it has the GX cassette in the rear, and it's a 52 tooth in the rear. And it's okay for the weight of this bike, especially if you're out of shape. Then it's okay. If you're in shape, it's a little bit too low. The gearing's still a little bit too low. Whereas the Izzo is a NX cassette, so the biggest teeth is a 50. And when I was out of shape, man, I felt like I was gonna have a heart attack with that 50. But when I started to get in shape, I felt like that 50 tooth was too low. I was like, oh, I wish it was 48 or something like that. So that tells you that the Izzo is more efficient than this bike, more efficient and less weight. Because this bike was 52. Feels worse than the Izzo with a 50. The Izzo with a 50 feels easier to go up that climb I just did. With the 3250 on Izzo was easier than this bike is with the 3252. So here's the beginning of the second half of the figure eight. On your right. Oh, what the heck? Oh, come on. What the heck happened? That was weird. What the hell? Oh, okay, that's the first time that ever happened. That's really weird. My, looked like my chain dropped down into the taller gears. That was weird. Just dropped down into the taller gears. So I wasn't able to climb. That's odd. So these new 12 speeds with this big old plate of a gear in the back. What I find, and I'm not sure if the Shimano one does this, but so far the NX and the GX does this, is when you're in that taller gear, not the taller gear, I mean the shorter gear, the big plate gear, if you pedal backwards more than one rotation, it will jump off that gear. So it kind of sucks for technical climbing when you need to back pedal. Sometimes it will actually drop out the gear and it hangs up. So, but it doesn't do it in the second power gear, which is the 42 twos. It doesn't do that in that gear. Oh, once again. So the sun's gonna set in another, I don't know, within half an hour. So that just leaves me just enough time to finish this ride, I think. So yeah. So right now I'm in the 42 twos. If I was on my Izzo, 42 twos, it feels easier. You know, I can feel that weight. But you know, when I have my Izzo, I should. Oh, that was weird. The camera turned off again. That's the second time. I wonder if it's because it's the format. I think it uses a fat, what is it, fat 16 or fat 32 or whatever it is. I think that format, you can only record for like an hour or so and it would stop. So they need to do something about that. So that tells me I'm like on my second hour already. Usually when I do this loop, it takes me, when I'm feeling good on the Izzo, I can do this in like a little bit over 2 hours. When I'm not feeling good, it takes me like 3 hours. So I'm not necessarily feeling good today, and this is not the Izzo, this is the Privateer141, so a little less efficient. So I just passed I think I just passed the 2 hour mark. No, that doesn't make sense, because I was riding it before, because an hour is only 60 minutes. The longest I ever recorded continuously is, I think, like around 77 minutes, and that was with I basically went until the battery ran out. So I don't know, kind of weird. Anyways, back to the bikes. So yeah, so I'm gonna put up my YT for sale. I don't need to be keeping two bikes that are almost the same travel. I think I like this one a little bit more, even though it's the climb on it is a little bit harder. It's a little bit more forgiving downhill. So my old ass needs that. So Yeah, so this is the second part of that figure eight I mentioned earlier. We have to climb a few switchbacks. Well, the switchback, switchback here, then we're gonna be at the top in a minute. Then we go down a few switchbacks, then have to climb up a few switchbacks, then go back down like half a dozen switchbacks, and we'll be back at the bench where this video started. Whew. So that's my loop. That's what I normally do. That loop, that figure eight loop, including the warm-up ride from my house to the bench and back, is about 10 miles. So I have yet to go past 10 miles this whole entire 5 months as I've been riding again. The most I've ridden is 10 miles. The shortest I've ridden is, I think, 3 miles. At the beginning when I was out of shape. I could only do this part of the loop. So this part of the figure eight is the shorter. It's shorter than the other one. So let me see if I can sit upright. You guys can see or not. Let me pass the technical section. So if you look past that way, you see the antenna. That's basically where we were earlier at that bench where I stopped. Took a little break. It's over there, all the way over there. So when I first rode again, I only did this section of the loop. And I was like having a heart attack. But now it's not so bad, right? You can see the switchback over there, right? See 2 switchbacks, 3 switchbacks. So this new bar and stem setup that I have, this flex bar, the stem length is the same, 40 millimeters, but the flex bar itself is a little bit taller. I forget how much it was. I think it was 35 millimeters or 40 millimeters in height, whereas the original bar was, I think, only 20 or 25. But the stem, this stem is not a 0 degree angle stem, it's a 6 degree. Or they say 6 plus or minus 6. I'm not sure if that's degrees or if that's actual millimeters. It might be millimeters and not degrees. So I set the stem with it in the low setting, so downwards, and obviously the handlebar is a little bit higher. So overall, it's still a little bit taller than the original handlebars. Maybe by, well, I don't know, maybe 10 millimeters or so. Something like that. So I like these hunt wheels. The hunt wheels with the hunt hub. It's a 72 tooth 3 paw by 2. So that means there's 2 sets of 3 paws, and those 2 sets of 3 paws are out of phase with each other. So on the hub end, where it engages, it's actually not 72. It's actually half of that, which was half of 72, 36. It's actually only 36, but since the paws are out of phase, it makes it 72 engagement point. I really like it. I dig it. It reminds me of Chris King, because Chris King has 70, I think also 72. But there's just a ratchet, not a paw. All right, almost at the top. So this works, this Hunt Hub works better than the DT Twist. And I upgraded on my YT Izzo. I upgraded the hub ratcheting from a 3-paw 18 tooth to a 54 tooth ratchet, and 54 was way better than 18. Oh man, especially technical climbing. Oh my god, I could not technical climb with the 18 tooth. I got hung up, and you want to ratchet back and into the next gear because it's such a low point of engagement numbers. I couldn't technical climb with it, but when I switched it to a 54, I was able to technical climb with it. And this 72 tooth is even better. So I'm digging it, and it's not that loud. I'm not a big fan of loud hubs. You know, the Chris King was loud. I mean, I had several of them, right? I had a single speed Chris King. I had a non-disc brake Chris King. Then when disc brake came out, I got a Chris King with disc brake. So at least three different rear wheel sets, and at least 2 front, actually 3 front, because I had a non-disc brake front, a disc brake front. I also had a 20mm through axle front. And the funny thing is I still have all of those too. They're just sitting on a shelf somewhere at the end of my parents' place. Okay, so this is it, the last downhill. So I'm gonna drop my seat down about 1 inch to 2 inches because it's not steep here, but it's rocky. Yeah. Up here a little bit. Hello, thank you. So when you ride, always be in control. You know, you never know, shit happens. People in the way, whatever. It could be a blind turn, switch back, whatever. Always be in control. That means you can stop pretty much anytime you want. If you can't do that, that means you're out of control. That means you're not a very good rider. So my riding style is a little different than other people. I like to float over things. I like to pick my lines, be smooth and float over everything. That's why I like to ride tactical, rocky, chunky stuff, because I like to float over it instead of just jumping over it. I find that more interesting, more fun, but also other thing with my riding style. I mean, I try to be as smooth as I can, obviously, but also I do not like to skid my tires. So you see that all the time. Skidding looks cool and everything, but that really causes a lot of erosion on the trail. So I'm, trying to be easy on the trail, and that's why when you're smoother, you're easy on the trail, and you don't do as much erosion, because mountain bikers, at least when I started mountain biking anyways, people weren't necessarily friendly to mountain biking, and they're probably still not as friendly, but I mean, I think it's gotten better from what I could tell. It's gotten more mainstream, more popular. But back when I first started, man, we were like the bane of the trails. People really looked down on us, and they always try to close up trails to mountain biking. So that's why since then I've always been more, be more conservative to the trail. The way, it's about that trail conservation. I actually, for like a year or so, actually did mountain bike patrol. It was to IMBA. I'm not even sure if they still have it. There's some more people. Hello, thank you. Perfect timing. Oh, let's see if I can get through here and not fall. Okay, there it goes. See, a lot of people, when they go to that switchback of that, they will just get the rear tire and basically rotate the bike around by skidding the rear tire. I don't do that, even though it's when you skid the rear tire around, it's actually pretty fast in a tight switchback. Going through the switchback is fast like that, but I don't do that because it causes a lot of erosion. That's why when you look at the switchback I just went through, you see how beat up and loose they become. It's because a lot of people skidded on those sections. Okay, here we are at the bottom, back to where I started, to the bench. So you just heard my mountain bike history and the Izzo and the YT Izzo and my Privateer141. Oh, I still have some water, I'm surprised. Thirsty as fuck right now, but anyway, so now I need to ride back home, which is another 2 miles, 3 miles back home. 2 or 3 miles, something like that. Whew. So yeah, so that's it. So thanks for watching. And thanks for listening to me ramble about, during the ride. All right, signing out.